They have made $1.4 billion off of pumpkin spice lattes just at Starbucks.
Inspired by the adventures of our nurses, therapists, and techs, A Beer with Atlas is the only healthcare traveling, craft beer drinking podcast. Each week, we'll open a few beers, talk about the brewery and the style of beer, and then dive into some research curated specifically for each episode. In the end, we hope each one sounds like a conversation you'd have with your friends while enjoying a few cold ones.
Welcome to another episode of A Beer with Atlas. I'm Rich.
And I'm basic.
Basic.
Why are you basic?
Is there any spice in this beer?
Oh, yeah. Pumpkin spice.
Just smell it. Just smell it. Oh, man. I can already tell we've gone off the rails with this episode already, and we are 20-ish seconds into it.
Yes.
That's Dolan down there.
He's so excited about it, he forgot to introduce himself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's some stuff right there. Pumpkin.
This week, Brian has brought us, virtual again this week, Brian has brought us a pumpkin beer from O'Fallon Brewing Company in St. Louis, Missouri. So, well, Maryland Heights, Missouri.
That's right.
So, and we'll talk about the differences there, but it's St. Louis. I had O'Fallon beer in St. Louis a number of times. If you go to St. Louis and you don't want to drink the beer that is located there, that's predominant throughout the entire country, O'Fallon is generally right there beside it.
Well, I found out doing a little research that this is their 20th year anniversary. So,
wow,
around since 2000. So, let's get right into it because we've got a lot to pack into this shorter episode today. So,
it's pumpkin beer, right? I mean, that's it.
Pumpkin beer. It's pumpkin beer. That's what we got. Pumpkin spices. We've done pumpkin beers before. So, I've done some research that's different than we've talked about before. It's going to not really be a whole lot about the style of beer because we've covered that previously. So let's just get into it. Here's the research I did a little bit on the brewery, not so much like history of who made it and all that sort of stuff, in case you have that. I wanted to talk about their pumpkin beer specifically because they make 4 different kinds. And they have a variety pack, which you can get, not in Nebraska. I had to bootleg this back from Iowa. As long as no one's listening that can shut us down. So I went to the Bluffs and grabbed some of this O'Fallon stuff. They make a variety pack. So it's a 12-pack. You get 3 of each kind, kind of like the Sam Adams ones that they do.
Okay.
They have this one, the pumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
They have one that's called Pumpkin Whip, which has got some vanilla in it.
Okay.
So it's similar to a drink, I guess. They have a Mexican hot chocolate pumpkin beer, which I would totally love to try. And they have one called Salted Caramel Pumpkin, which also would be good. They do not have the variety pack. Otherwise, I would have got that and we'd all be wasted. So I just grabbed a 6-pack of what they did have. What do you think, Rich? You're not a pumpkin guy?
I'm glad you didn't get the variety pack.
Oh, man.
Well, here we go. How about this? I see where you're going with this. Like, we should all just get like we should all be shopping at Target with vests and high socks on, right?
I'm basic.
Basic. Yeah.
Hey, I'm in because I am a pumpkin spice lover.
Me too.
I'm getting the pumpkin spice as soon as it comes out at all the coffee shops.
Yep.
I'm in line. Yep.
I really like this one. It's one I would buy again, although I would have to drive back to Iowa. I like the color. I mean, it's darker, right?
Yeah, I guess.
The smell is pumpkin spicy. It's maybe a little clove. It's got cinnamon for sure, which I love cinnamon in beer. Cinnamon in anything is great for me, but cinnamon in beer, like a stout or pumpkin beer specifically, super tasty. Love it.
Okay. Maybe I'm gonna reserve.
I'll wear you down. Don't worry.
I'm gonna reserve my judgment until the end. I'm gonna drink the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's what we do.
That's exactly what we do. I will. I want you to talk a little bit more before I actually, because I have my own opinions about O'Fallon as a brewery.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get through this here.
Here's a couple more beers that they make that I thought were interesting. One of the beers that they make is called Wheat, which is a wheat peach beer. It's one of my sister's favorite beers.
This is your sister's
Awesome.
favorite beer. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the summertime, we always try to get some of that. It's very tasty. They have a cherry chocolate stout. That's pretty good.
Okay.
They have one that's called, I can't say the word, but it's basically a Margarita IPA. So it's called a Margarita.
Whoa.
And then they have one that's called Naughty, but it's a pretzel beer. And I've had pretzel beer before. I think Nebraska Brewing Company made one once. And it tasted exactly like pretzels. And it was really good for like the first 3 or 4 drinks.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, it was not as good. I mean, it was fun to try it. It would have been great for like a taster. But I had this at the Storm Chasers game in a big pour. And by the end of that, I was like, ugh. And I love pretzels and I love beer. And no. So I would try this one because it's only a 12 ounce, bottles. So that's probably the right amount for that sort of beer.
Denver Brewing
42 was not good.
No, Denver Brewing does. I think it's called Pretzel King, I believe, and it tastes like pretzels too. But and those are 12-ounce cans, and that's it. Like I get to probably 9 ounces on that. And like, okay, this is no.
It's got to be cold.
Yeah,
I would say, and it's weird that it does. It tastes exactly like pretzels. It's so weird. The only other thing I wrote down about the brewery itself, and maybe you'll cover this, maybe you won't. I've never heard of this before. They have their own, they call it the Ofb Beer Lab.
Right.
And it's basically the science part we've talked about before, but they hire it out. So if you're making a beer, like if you're a home brewer or you're another brewery and you want their like opinion on stuff, they'll run panels for you. So like we do with our healthcare travelers, if you're getting a drug screen or you're getting your titers drawn or that sort of stuff, that's get sent to the lab. You get your results, just get sent it back. Same thing for this. They'll do a yeast panel. They'll tell you what's in there, the condition of it, the livelihood of it. They'll do something that's called a calculated nutritional panel. So because you have to put your like nutritional information on packaging now. If you need to know your calories, your ABV, that sort of stuff, like they'll do that science for you. It's $20 for them to tell you your ABV. It's $60 for them to tell you the calorie intake, what your beer is in calories or caloric. And then the pH, they'll do a pH balance on your water for $10 because water is super important for beer. And a lot of places have different pH levels and you have to know that before you make beer. They'll do a color test, which is real scientific. There's like a spectrometer that you drop your beer onto and you look through it and it gives you this range. And those are expensive scientific like things. My brother-in-law has one for homebrew, but I don't know if you would need the same sort of thing for like this scale of beer or not. And then IBU testing is $35. So I think a lot of it's homebrew. When you make a homebrew, a lot of times you'll use a recipe and it should tell you in the recipe. But if you vary it at all, any little tweak can change all those things. And if you absolutely have to know it, this is a place to do it. They also will tell you if your beer's spoiled, they'll tell you what's in it and why it's spoiled, which is kind of cool. So I know our friend Aaron Daly was studying for a long time for the Cicerone test, which is like an official, you get a little pen that says, I know about beer. And one of the things you have to drink, there's like these basically 10 different spoiled samples. And you have to tell them why it's spoiled or what kind of bacteria made the spoilage. So not only do you know about good beer, you have to know about bad beer and why it's bad. And there's a couple of them that he flip-flopped on a bunch. So he was always like studying for that test. And that was one of the things that he had to know. And that's what they'll tell you. So if you've got a batch of beer that came out bad and you want to know why, they'll do the science on that and let you know. So pretty cool. I've never heard of that before.
I wondered about this because I was on their website too, and they actually have one with that OFB logo that looked completely different than the rest of their beers. It was called Pumpkin Pie Fizz. Right? And I thought,
well, they make a cider. They make cider there. So maybe it's that or what's the other thing we've been talking about this year? Seltzers.
Yeah.
I think they have a seltzer too. So it could be that.
Weird.
But they're a big-ish brewery in Missouri that we haven't really talked about before.
Bigger than maybe some of the other breweries that we've talked about. This is probably
Especially,
the big.
yeah, I think so.
Next
Other
to-
than like Boulevard, of course,
Right.
but
Yeah.
the ones that we've been doing recently, like the Oktoberfest beers that we had, and we've had a lot of Missouri beers. So
Like crazy, yeah, but we have. That's true. Did you go through? They went through, and these guys are all pumpkin pied in, right? I don't even know how else to explain it. Like they love pumpkin. They love pumpkin spice, pumpkin pie,
Yeah.
pumpkin whatever. Like, did you see how many beers they've done in the past? So they had a whole list of them. So you listed out the current ones, right?
Yeah.
They've had, and I wrote this down because I thought this was crazy. Like this, in addition to what you listed, they've also done a peach pumpkin beer, an apple cinnamon pumpkin beer,
I'd be in on that one.
with a pumpkin bread dunkel.
That would be good.
I think the Germans would punch them in the mouth for that.
Well, it wouldn't meet those dirty German purity laws, but
No,
tastes good.
They have a saison called Season of the Pumpkin.
That might be good.
Okay, not generally a saison fan, but all right.
It's got pumpkin in it. I'll drink it.
Now here's yours. Pumpkin pie stout. They had pumpkin pecan pie stout.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Mhm.
We did a pumpkin stout last year, if you remember.
did. Yeah.
Yes.
Pumpkin s'more stout.
Okay, now you're talking my love language.
Right. Right. I think you got a little excited there for a
I
second.
did. I moved closer to the camera. Whoa.
This one interested me a lot. Pumpkin Belgian wit. So
Yeah.
they're gonna make a traditional Belgian wit, but then instead of like a lemon flavor, I would assume there's a pumpkin flavor.
Yeah, I think coriander and pumpkin would go pretty well. I've had Shock Top. You remember them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When I was first kind of getting into craft, and that's not craft, but back in that day, it kind of was the only place you could really get a mass-produced pumpkin. They made a pumpkin beer that was pretty good.
Really?
Blue Moon.
That was like 10 years ago. I don't know if they make it anymore or not.
I was gonna say Blue Moon. Blue Moon does that pumpkin wheat every year.
They have
Yeah.
a pumpkin, and they have a horchata that's amazing. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
You get the sampler pack of that. Dolan would have recognized. You can still get Shock Top all over Chicagoland. So Dolan was just in Chicago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was everywhere.
everywhere. Well, that's where they originated. So
Sure.
and you can still get Shock Top everywhere. I think Shock Top is a fine substitute if okay, here are your choices: Miller Lite, Coors Light, Bud Light, Shock Top.
Heineken.
Yeah.
And that's,
Heineken. Oh,
and that's
Heineken.
it,
Ugh.
right?
Yeah.
Then
It's
give me
got flavor.
Yes.
I think I want to hit in this part of the research real quick because Dolan talked about it, and it's pumpkin spice. And he was talking about pumpkin spice in the coffee shops.
Yes.
So I did some pumpkin spice latte research,
Oh boy.
which is another reason why I'm basic today. It's created in 2003, Starbucks. Right now, it's in 50 countries in the world.
Wow.
There have been 424 million cups sold. Starts at about $4. They have made $1.4 billion off of pumpkin spice lattes, just at Starbucks.
Man.
There are, when I last checked this the other day when I did my research, 500,000 Instagram posts with the hashtag pumpkin spice latte. There are 1.2 million that just say PSL, which is, if you're in the know, that's the shorthand for pumpkin spice latte, Rich.
PSL.
There's a verified Twitter account. It's just called Pumpkin Spice Latte. Has 500,000 followers. At Starbucks, if you're going there, a tall one of these has 300 calories. So you could drink about 3 of these beers or one of those coffees. Has 39 grams of sugar, which seems like a lot to me. It has pumpkin, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, which is basically what's in this beer, basically. And then as far as the beer market goes, I have some of that research too. So I want to go into that in a minute. But the last part of the market stuff I want to talk about with coffee is it's not just Starbucks. Everybody thinks about Starbucks, but most coffee places have a drink like this, like a knockoff.
Yep.
Starbucks has, let's see, I'm going to make sure I have the notes right. Okay. In 2015 alone, the market for these drinks was $500 million. That's how much was made. And then in 2018, $600 million. So in 3 years, it went up $100 million. But in that year, it's kind of was the peak, and now it's kind of coming back down.
Okay.
But Dunkin' Donuts,
Mm-hmm.
Peet's Coffees, which I think is in the South, if I'm not mistaken.
You can get that here, though.
Yeah, you can get that here. And then Tim Hortons, which is like up in north, like Canada and like Minnesota and that sort of places.
Yep.
They combined for $10 million. That's it. So the rest of it's all like Starbucks. So what do you think about pumpkin spice lattes? That's where you go.
Here's the thing, and I've noticed this, and so I'm going to say this with a lot of confidence, because beside every one of our podcasts there on Apple Podcasts, we get the little E in the box, the explicit, right? Because sometimes we curse on the podcast. Fuck you, Starbucks.
Whoa!
You're responsible for this. This is your fault.
Not totally. Here's why. Okay. Let me break it down for you.
Look, if we get the E, I'm going to earn it.
There is a $600 million, let's say, price tag or money that's made for pumpkin spice things.
Okay.
The other top makers, ice cream. So $10 million a year sold of pumpkin flavored ice cream or pumpkin spice ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
They call pie filling is one of these things. I feel like pumpkin pie has been around longer than pumpkin spice lattes, but that's $130 million for just like canned pumpkin.
Sure.
This one kind of surprised me, and you'll either love this or hate it. $109.5 million on pumpkin spiced dog food.
Well, now here's the thing: pumpkin pie filling, no. Regular pumpkin and like canned pumpkin, very good for your dog.
It is really good for your dog.
And that might be why. So that's, $109 million for dog food. Now, out of that...
you didn't say Ugg Boots.
Well, yeah. I think that comes with it.
Oh, I thought it came in it.
Well, you can put them in. You can drink it out of a Ugg boot. It's like Das Boot, but for Uggs. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the beer part, like where pumpkin beers drop into the money of craft. It's not in, they don't have like a specific category for pumpkin beer. So they throw it in with the seasonals, right? Because it's a changing sort of thing. So $26 billion a year is the seasonal beer market. So when we're so we're talking about, Oktoberfest, or we're talking about, whatever Christmas beers, or we're talking about, that sort of thing. That's $26 billion. But 15% of that is pumpkin beers. And
you just see me getting angrier here.
Yeah. And that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
2017 and 2018, that was the bubble. And from that year, it went down 7.5%. So everything else was going up. And every brewery was making a pumpkin beer for a while.
Of course they were. Of course.
I mean, when like maybe 5 years ago, when you go to the store, I mean, it was hard to pick a pumpkin beer because they were everywhere. Yep. And specifically this year, when I went to find pumpkin beers, I found the two I brought. Like that was it, other than the one we've done before.
Bonus beer.
So we got a bonus beer coming up. So it's still a big part of the market. It's gone down substantially since the last 4 or 5 years. But it's still one of my favorite seasonals and time to get these beers. And they're really not around very long. So if you like this, they're usually out around the same time as Oktoberfest beers.
Yep.
Stock up. It's already too late. You'll have to try next year.
Okay.
Well, you're going to find all the leftovers. I mean,
Yeah.
probably in the single beer, the make your own 6-pack.
You might find them there. They'll be a little dusty.
Yeah.
In the past years, I've really liked Sam Adams. I couldn't find it this year. They had 2 different ones before. Couldn't find them. My local spot, Nebraska Brewing Company, they did can them this year again. Last year, I tried to get it for us, and they didn't can it. I like that one because it has a lot of vanilla in it. Last year, I think we talked about pumpkin, and that's not available here either. But they added a new one to their roster, I think. So I think they have like 5 or 6 now varieties of they have a pumpkin stout there. It's called the Warlock. But they have maybe, I think 5 now in the family of pumpkin beers. So if you're out on the East Coast, you can find that stuff.
I don't want to be one of those guys because we've all seen them in the Facebook groups, right?
Yeah.
When the pumpkin beers start coming and someone posts a picture for the first time, like, hey, and they just know they're going to get just railed, right? They just know it's coming. And, or whatever. And there's like, screw pumpkin, it doesn't belong in beer, whatever. And then there's people like, it's okay or whatever. Yeah. And I don't want to be the guy that says it doesn't belong in beer. But does it?
Why wouldn't it? I mean, does cucumber, does cherry, does peach, does tangerines, pickles? I mean,
I know. I've always said I don't mind fruit in my beer, right? That's fine. Do I mind vegetables in my beer? I don't know.
Look,
we've had pepper beers.
They've made some pretty weird beers out there. I would not be surprised. There's dryer lint beer, maybe pocket lint beer.
There's beard that was made out of the yeast of the guy's beard.
The beer.
There's Rocky Mountain oyster beer.
Yeah.
There's actual oysters in beer. I mean, there's
Brian's favorite. There's French's mustard beer.
Oh God, no.
Which I still haven't been able to obtain. I
hope you can't. I really hope it's gone.
That might be our last episode of A Beer with Atlas of all time.
Yeah. You say, I'm rich, and I'd say, I'm angry. And I'd throw down my headphones. I'm out.
Well, it's just Rich and Dolan on this episode.
What is it about the pumpkin beer?
I don't know.
The cinnamon? Is it the spice? Because you can't, to me, I don't taste pumpkin necessarily.
It almost, it's very pumpkin pie-ish.
And I don't like pumpkin pie at all. I hate pumpkin pie, but I like this beer.
You are essentially eating pumpkin pie. Essentially.
Yeah, well, I'm drinking it, but yeah. If pumpkin pie gave me a buzz, maybe I would like pumpkin pie.
I don't know. I would argue that I drink pumpkin pie too. Just,
There you go. Bonus beer time.
All right, let's so I poured the rest of it here. I will end up drinking it. It's not like somewhere I'm like, that's enough. O'Fallon, to me, always just kind of falls a little short. For whatever reason, that's the case. It always fallen short for me. I don't know why.
Is it because it's close to St. Louis? Let's be honest.
No, because I got another brewery to hate there. It's very easy to hate the other brewery there.
Yeah, the evil empire, yeah.
Right. It's very easy to cheer for these guys because they've been fighting the good fight for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I've had the peach wheat.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just if you were to, I don't know, it's just a wheat beer that has some peach in it or whatever.
I would say it's better than there's one in that, what's the brewery in Kearney?
Thunderhead.
It's better than their peach beer.
Yeah, no. Well,
that we can get.
So it's not O'Fallon for you. It's O'Fallon.
Oh, it's
O'Fallon.
There it is.
Yep.
No, I like it here. I loved it actually. Well, but I'm a huge pumpkin spice guy, so I like it too. I love pumpkin everything, and I bet you I'm gonna love the punked pie.
Yeah. So bonus beer. Tell us about the bonus beer, because it comes from a brewery called West O, and that's not West Omaha.
Nope, that is West, like Okoboji. So it's an Iowa-made beer. We've talked about them before. We've had one of their beers before. I don't know if we did an episode of this, but I know that you and me did a video of it for chocolate, maybe Valentine's Day.
Oh, Valentine's Day, yeah.
Long time ago. See, what does that say? Can for the what?
Can for the couch.
There you go. Because you can't go out. Everything's closed. You have it at home. So that's what that is.
Oh, yeah.
The brewery itself has been around, maybe about 7 years or so, maybe 8.
Okay.
This is one of Frank's spots.
Mm-hmm.
They have a red ale, like a smoked red ale that he really likes there. And he's got I know he's got like a Westo shirt. I've seen him wear before. So it's in that area. Their chocolate stout that we did do won a gold medal 2 years in a row at Great American Beer Festival.
Wow.
So that's how I found out about them. I found them at a beer fest here. Actually, it was at Warner Park. The first year they did it there, and Westo was there, and that was the first year they had won the gold. And it was 118 degrees that day, and that was the only beer I went back for to have again. It was so good.
Wow.
So I always have some of that out at my house. And then they've just continued to make really good stuff. Now, they're not a brewery that's like we always talk about cross-train. They're not making 18 different IPAs here. They're more of a German traditional style, Pilsners. This is a Dunkel, I think. They have like reds. They have, they did make a couple of shandies this year that were really good. They had a cherry limeade one that was like pretty phenomenal, which was another one of these seasonal, like limited release beers. They make an IPA. They have a pale ale. They have a wheat. They cover the bases, but they're not like a cross drain. They're probably more like a pint 9, if you will.
Sure.
That style of brew. So the reason I bought this one is a friend of mine, Tristan, who helps me run the beer page that we have, grabbed these and said, holy cow, this is good. I'd never had it before. It's not necessarily a pumpkin beer. It has the pumpkin spices. I don't know that there's actual pumpkin in it, but it is, I think it's like a double, I think, or a Dubel, if you will.
Dubel. Yeah, so it's a Belgian style Dubel. I'm trying to get the pumpkin out of my mouth here because I'm trying to finish because I want to pour it into a glass, but I think I'm just going to drink it right out of the can here. So I'm trying to get
there you go.
The previous pumpkin out.
Cinnamon and other spices, which are like allspice and clove and nutmeg, would be my guess.
Probably, yeah. All right, here we go. Smells good.
Ooh.
Mm.
Ooh. It's is it correct to say spicier?
It is spicier and not in like a hot
not in a hot sense, but there's way more spice to the pumpkin than pumpkin compared to the O'Fallon.
Way more. Way.
It's also a lot darker in color.
Mm-hmm. Way darker.
And that's the style of that beer, right? So that's what you'd get in a traditional one without those pumpkin-y spices. So I don't know. I haven't done enough research on this one to know if there's even pumpkin in it. It might just be this style with the pumpkin pie spice additives.
Maybe. It is interesting. It is completely different than the pumpkin beer that we just had.
Says 2-row malt, biscuit malt, Mount Hood hops, Belgian yeast, cinnamon, and other.
Yeah, so no pumpkin. So. There you go. So it's a pumpkin beer with no pumpkin, which is why it was a bonus beer.
Well, that's why maybe it's called punked. Punked?
You got punked.
Punked. Yeah.
Could be. Pretty cool. The last thing I want
without no pumpkin.
Without having pumpkin, right? Yeah. The last thing I wanted to get into real quickly is I did a little bit of historical information on the jack-o'-lantern. So on the O'Fallon, there's a jack-o'-lantern on the label. There you go. Rich's is a little bit different. There's Dolan's. We know them as carved pumpkins, right? And I think if you've been on the internet at all, you've probably seen the picture of the turnip that was carved. They used to use turnips in England and Ireland and stuff back in the day before pumpkins were a big thing. So jack-o'-lanterns were carved out of turnips. And that's a little bit weird. There's a story in one of my kids' Halloween Disney books that's about a carved turnip. It's a Peter Pan story. But that's pre-19th century. So we're talking 1700s. In the 1800s, Victorian times, pumpkins hit the market, basically. And that's where you think about jack-o'-lanterns. Now, no one really knows the name or where it comes from. In like the history of the term jack-o'-lantern was used in a couple different ways. One of them is synonymous with will-o'-the-wisp, if you've ever heard of that. Mm-hmm. So it's like basically phosphorescence or like dying vegetable material, dead grass and stuff will emit this, almost looks like a flame. And they call that jack-o'-lantern. That was the term. And then the other thing was back in the day when there were night watchmen in a city walking around making sure no one was breaking into your house or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you didn't know that person, they were called a jack. So like we would say something like a bro, hey bro, or, you know, hey dude. If you didn't know somebody back in that day, you'd say, hey Jack. And that was what it was. And he's walking around with a lantern at night because he's patrolling the town in England or wherever in Europe. So they started becoming known as Jack of the Lantern. And then that was shorted to Jack-o'-lantern. So no one knows really, but it's both of them. It's because of flames, because the light was, you know, that's how you had light back then. And it makes sense to me that that's where that would come from. But it's either 400-year-old name, which was the guy walking around with a lantern, or it might even be like older than that with the will-o'-the-wisp tie-in. So that's where the name comes from. You can decide, I guess, where or what it means, but that's how it was. As far as the theories of these, like where did the pumpkin come from? Why is it a jack-o'-lantern? Why did they carve these things? There's 3 different reasons. One of them, it was basically to scare off evil spirits. So you'd put it outside your house, and it's like, you know, a pagan thing. Yeah. Ghosts are coming, and they're going to come in your house. Oh, wait, there's a scary vegetable carved out here. I'll go to the next one. The other one was a story about jack-o'-lanterns was in Ireland. The devil made this guy named Jack like walk around forever, for eternity, with this lit carved thing, like a turnip. So he was walking around with this lit up thing, and that's why it's a jack-o'-lantern. Now
that just sounds like drunken Irish story, like a bunch of drunk Irish guys,
which could be.
Yeah.
And then the third one was kids would carve them and then light candles in the pumpkin and use that to scare people. So it was like a prank. So I guess you could be scared super easily in the 1700s. I don't know. I mean, there was no CGI or anything back then, but so I guess a lit vegetable would scare you. And that's what it was. So those are the 3 theories as to where it comes from, or it was either a story or, so you carved it to keep away the evil spirits. That's probably where I would guess it comes from. Sure. That seems like it would apply to more people.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I talked about with pumpkins, when I think about jack-o'-lanterns, it's Disney tie-in again, ding, ding, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Mm-hmm. So that's like an animated, it's not really a movie. It's shorter than that. It's like 20 minutes long. Bing Crosby is the voice, which I love his singings. And he does the narration for the thing too. But it's a short, it's a story written wrote down 1790 by Washington Irving. Mm-hmm. And he had just kind of come to New York. So New York is one of the very first states. And this is right after the Independence War. Right. So it's a very new country. And he writes this story about this school teacher that shows up to this town named Ichabod Crane. And everybody wants to know about him. And he falls in love with this girl in the town who also has a guy that wants to marry her. So it's a love triangle. And the guy makes up the story about a headless horseman to scare this guy because he knows he's a chicken. And that's basically the story. And then you can decide if he either dresses up like the Headless Horseman to scare him off, or maybe the Headless Horseman is real. We don't know. But either way, Ichabod Crane leaves town and does not marry the girl, and that guy does. So I'm guessing he did it, but that's the story. And I am always remembering when as a kid watching that, because he takes off, he has a lit up pumpkin and he throws it down the bridge and it comes at the screen like this and it blows up, and it's kind of spooky as a 6-year-old. And my kid loves it too. So we watch it quite a bit. It made $1,625,000 in the movie theater, which is a lot considering it was like 24 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it was in the 40s. But then again, what else are you going to do for entertainment, right? And Bing Crosby was a huge star.
Yeah.
So anything that's tied to him, it was the only time he ever was in an animated thing. Disney paid him a pretty good amount of money for that. And it's tied now into another thing that was done by a British guy that did. It was like a famous British actor too. Mr. Toad is the story. And his name's Basil something, like Basil Rathbone or something British.
I think that's right. Mm-hmm.
So he does that. So they're tied together now, and they're put in as a short movie, but it's still less than an hour long. But if you go on Disney Plus, as we talked about in the Star Wars episode, you can watch this film. It came out in the 40s. It's still relevant today, and it's pretty fun. A lot of good songs. There you go. Pumpkins.
I don't know about this.
Oh my goodness. Dolan, what do you think? I'm only going to listen to you.
You know what? I don't know. When I found out that there probably wasn't any pumpkin in here,
you got sad.
Yeah, I got a little sad.
Yeah.
I think I still like the O'Fallon one. If I had a choice, I would choose the O'Fallon. This one is still good. I would order it.
Yeah. The O'Fallon one has a little bit of sweetness that this one does not have.
Yes, this one is a little, like I said, a little bit spicier in terms of, cinnamon and probably nutmeg and whatever else.
This is closer to like a holiday ale. You know what I mean? We're getting close. We're creeping closer to that.
Yes, this is you put a little cranberry in here, and you take away maybe a little bit of the cinnamon nutmeg kind of or whatever.
Yeah, you got a Christmas beer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not that far off.
Yeah, it really isn't that far off from Christmas beer. It does, though. It does taste like there's pumpkin in here. The pumpkin pie is the perfect name for this.
It really does. Yeah.
And
if I choose, I will go. I'm coming back to the O'Fallon beer, which is not my style, right? That's just not. But this was, like Dolan said, and spicy is a bad term because you equate spicy with hot.
Heat, yeah.
And that's not what this is. There's a spice-ish. I'll still drink it.
Mm-hmm.
That I will come back to the O'Fallon pumpkin beer and finish this before I finish that one.
Right.
I don't know.
Like when you hear pumpkin spice latte, you think like pumpkin up front, spice on the finish.
Mm-hmm.
This is spice up front, pumpkin in the finish, I think.
Different.
Yeah. I wish I had some of the O'Fallon left because I would combine them and see what that's like.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, back to the jack-o'-lantern thing, like other than drinking beer and experimenting with turkey recipes, my favorite thing in the fall is carving pumpkins. I think I love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work and it's a lot of mess, but it's fun too. I like it.
It's the fun part of it is keeping the seeds and roasting it, and then
that's true.
Having a snack. Yeah.
I love some pumpkin seeds.
Me too.
Yeah. Dolan, you're an old soul. Like, I wouldn't say that many people your age would be like, I can't wait to carve pumpkins. It's just not I don't know.
No, I love it. It's so much fun. I love doing it. We used to do it every year, growing up. All my brothers and I would get together, and my stepmom, she would buy us each a pumpkin. We'd play rock, paper, scissors over who gets what pumpkin. The bigger one or the weird one or whatever.
Yep.
And then we'd lay newspaper on our entire kitchen table.
Yeah.
We just go for it.
Go to town.
What is your favorite Halloween costume you've ever had?
Ooh, I think Ultimate Warrior from last year's Halloween party.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. That one was probably the most I've ever gone in on a costume. All my costumes have been like, either homemade or Pinterest ideas.
And that's true. I don't say this like sold out in a bad way. Dolan sold out on that costume, man. It was Ultimate Warrior all the way. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I went one year, we played a show in Crete, Nebraska. I think it was Crete or Waverly. No, it was Waverly. And I was Rivers Cuomo for Halloween. And my friend Daryl, bass player, he was the head of ELO. So he was Jeff Lynne. So if you know what he looks like, he's got a big curly afro, basically, white guy afro with shades. And then my friend Mark, who played guitar, he went in as an accountant. So he had a tie. So that was a good Halloween show that we played, and that was his costume. But yeah, I was Rivers that had some tape on my glasses and a
nice
sweater vest.
Awesome.
Rich?
You know what? My friend Brian Peterson, which is funny. So my best friend from college, who was my roommate, Brian Schmidt, brought me back a kilt from when he was overseas. And yeah, so I have been Rowdy Piper, because he knew deep down that Piper was my favorite wrestler going way back. I wasn't a Hogan guy. I wasn't a Macho Man guy. I was a Piper guy. And I just love Piper because he was crazy.
Yeah.
And you never knew what he was going to do. And I loved just being so nervous every time he came on screen because you didn't know what he was going to do. He's going to punch me and Gene in the face. He didn't care. Like, it didn't matter. And I love that about Piper. And with anyone that knows my personality probably understands exactly why I would love that.
Yeah.
So I have been Rowdy Piper for a number of years for Halloween. It's probably my favorite.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys, what's the best costume you've seen, come up to your door for trick-or-treating, like when you're handing out candy?
I don't know about the best, but I'll tell you the worst. And I hate it. And I'm going to sound off real fast.
Okay.
Kids in junior high, 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, that just wear their football outfits.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're just wearing their jersey.
Half-ass.
Get out of here. You're getting the mounds. Here, have this shit. I don't want it.
No, wait a minute.
You're not getting anything else.
Black licorice.
If you don't want those mounds, I'll take them. I'll eat them.
Well, bring your jersey over and I'll give them to you in a pillowcase. But yeah, that's the worst. There's like every year, there's about 10 guys that will all show up, usually together, in their midget football gear or whatever.
Yeah.
Ew, get out of here with that.
Because they still want candy, but they're too cool for school, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Last year, there was a lot of inflatable costumes in my neighborhood.
Yes.
Dinosaurs specifically, but there was other, like a guy looked like an alien was carrying him around. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they've definitely amped it up since Rich and I were kids and we had the plastic mask that you couldn't see or breathe out of.
Yep. Dolan, what's yours?
Well, I think one of my favorites. It was also kind of, I don't know. It was a homemade costume, you could tell. But it was so creative and it was awesome. Somebody came up as the Wrecking Ball from Miley Cyrus's. They had. It looked like they were wearing, I don't know. It was like some sort of wire thing around them, and the wire was filled with the trash bags and whatever else, and they looked like the Wrecking Ball. And then they had a chain like hanging off their back.
That's awesome.
And then they had a little Barbie that was supposed to be Miley Cyrus, like sitting on the side of the Wrecking Ball. And I saw it immediately because that song was huge that year.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, it was everywhere. I saw that and I lost it. And actually we were playing. The band that I was in was playing a Halloween show, and that's where I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is hilarious. So, and of course, Columbus being a small town, I saw her out trick or treating everywhere. And it was pretty awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I think it was a couple years ago, Atlas. Maybe it was last year. We do the little trick or treating out at Warner Park, the Storm Chasers.
Yeah.
Are they the AAA for the Royals?
The Royals, yeah.
Yeah.
We do a thing every year called Baseball Halloween.
Baseball Halloween, yeah. We did a video about it a while back. And there was a kid there who was in a wheelchair. And his dad built his wheelchair into the Millennium Falcon. Was that right?
It was the X-Wing.
Oh, it was the X-Wing.
It was Luke's X-Wing.
Oh,
That's pretty sweet.
It was fantastic. Dude, that kid was the star of the show.
He had the best, and it was really well done. Like his dad must have taken measurements, painted it.
It was like to scale.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Awesome.
It was. Everyone was asking for pictures with this kid. This kid was he was Luke Skywalker for a day, and it was pretty unbelievable. It was magnificent.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously this show is after Halloween. If you guys seen anything cool, leave a comment below, or just tell us about it, because that is awesome.
Yeah, we don't even know what's going to happen with Halloween this year.
Well, by now we'll know, but I'm feeling it'll mean nothing.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Fun fact: we're recording this a couple weeks before Halloween.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so Untapped. Let's do the O'Fallon pumpkin / yam beer.
Yeah, yams.
Yam.
Yep.
All right, so 24,000 check-ins. This one's been around the block a few times. Give me an idea.
3.76.
I'm going to go 3.68.
3.64.
Ooh.
So close.
Yeah,
so close.
Ooh.
And that was, quite honestly, for a pumpkin beer like that, for the shit that pumpkin beers get, 3.64 is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
I mean, a 4 average is amazing.
Yeah.
With 22,000 check-ins, so that's pretty good.
All right, so now let's look at the punked pie. Pumpkin pie.
Probably a lot less than 22,000.
848.
Yeah.
So 848.
I couldn't even find this beer on their website, by the way.
Oh.
I looked. It wasn't even on there. So.
Well, it is a limited release.
But they had the summer shandies and all that stuff too, but they did not have this one. So
they just didn't update their website yet.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's one of those where they're just like, oh, we'll drop it, but we're not going to tell the beer community.
They do have a French toast cocoa stout right now that's out that I have seen in the store, which would probably be pretty awesome.
Yum.
I would have that.
Yes, me too.
All right. Brian has already checked this in one time.
Yep.
848 check-ins. What do you say we're at? And Brian's check-in is actually pretty close.
Is it?
Your score is actually pretty close to the actual score.
Okay, then I'll just go in. 3.83.
I'm gonna say 3.95.
3.68.
What'd I go? 3.75?
You went 3.35, but that was 4 years ago. Last time you checked was 2016.
Yeah.
So
they've done this before. It's just they're bringing it back.
Mm-hmm.
They bring it back every year, maybe.
Maybe. I don't remember seeing it last year, so it's possible.
I vaguely recall the can. Vaguely. So I probably have seen it a few times.
It's possible. All their beers have the same design.
True.
So it's just a matter of what it says in the middle, I guess. But yeah, yep. I get what you're saying.
Yep. Exactly. So, well, I guess I'll keep drinking it. I'll finish it. It's not my favorite. I'll actually take jalapeno beers over this, quite honestly. But
oh wow, that's surprising.
Look, but if you put a beer in front of me, I'm gonna drink it. I'm gonna finish it. So, well, Brian Dolan, we're not going anywhere for a while.
Me and Dolan are going to go to the pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to A Beer with Atlas. Special thanks to our brand team for producing the show. Each episode of A Beer with Atlas is powered by Atlas MedStaff, an industry leader in travel healthcare staffing.